Great. So I see that we are all ready. So good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me properly. Well, first of all, welcome to this workshop organized by the European Commission on the opportunities of AI and foundation models in the energy sector. And thank you for your attendance all to this workshop. Very briefly, going through the agenda, we'll have an opening by the European Commission, and then we will have two panels for discussion. One first panel covering the opportunities of foundation models and AI solutions for energy. Then will be a short break of 10 minutes, and at 10:35 we will reconvene for the second panel to discuss about solutions for data sharing and model development, after which there will be some closing remarks by the Commission for the summary and the next steps. So I would like to also remark that the workshop will be recorded and made available afterwards. And without any further ado, I give the floor for the opening remark to Mark van Stiphout, Deputy Head of Unit of DG Ener B4, which is Digitalization, Competitiveness, the Research on Innovation at DG Ener, the Directorate General for Energy, and to Zoe de Linde, Deputy Head of Unit of DG Connect E4, which is stands for Intelligent Connected Mobility, Energy, and Internet of Things at Directorate General for Communication Networks, Content, and Technology. Thank you very much, and I give you the floor.
Great. Thank you, Alejandro. Thanks, everybody, for joining. This is quite a turnout, so that shows that we are hopefully going to discuss something interesting, and I hope we will, let's say, meet all of your expectations, which are undoubtedly very high. So my name is Mark van Stiphout. I am working with Alejandro, but also a lot with Zoe on digitalization and AI. You may know that our commissioner, Dan Jurgensen, when he started, was tasked by the president through a mission letter to develop a strategic roadmap on digitalization and AI in the energy sector. That, of course, is part of a whole set of tasks that he has been given. And if you have read or heard the State of the Union speech that our president gave last week, then you will probably also have heard that digitalization and energy are some of, if not the key topics for European policy for the near future, where really the future of the continent is at stake. I think I am not exaggerating because I am following what our president has said. There is really a lot at stake, both in competitiveness, if we talk about energy supplies, if we talk about climate change, and of course the security of our energy system, as well as the, let's say, the autonomy and the future of our continent in terms of getting a grip and being a serious actor when it comes to AI and all the developments that are there. So bringing those two together is what we are trying to do with our work on the strategic roadmap on AI and digitalization, or digitalization and AI, where we address a number of topics. It is foreseen for early next year, but the planning is still to be confirmed. And so this workshop is meant to address some of the things that we are looking at. And what we are looking at in general is, first of all, how do we make sure that data is easily accessible? Because if everything, anywhere we talk about digitalization, it always has to do about getting data. And also if we talk about AI, it's about getting good data. And we talk about how can we develop the key models of AI within the EU ourselves, and that is a bit the key topic of today. Of course, when we talk about developing AI models and also using it, and of course part of the discussion today is also where should we focus on using them most, then we also need to think about the risks that brings with us and make sure that we develop AI in a, let's say, in a wise way, that we manage the risks and reap the benefits at the same time. And that is the workshop, the next workshop that we plan, I think, for the 25th of September. So already a small advertisement. If you're here today, then you probably also want to follow that one next week. Yes, next week or in 2 weeks. Next week.
Next week.
So
yes.
Yes, thank you, Alejandro. Then next to that, we are also looking at how do we make sure that all this AI has enough energy to basically to do all the wonderful things it is supposed or can potentially do. And so that has to do a lot about electricity supply, grid connections, etc., which is a big topic. If you follow the news, which is quite an issue in numerous countries in the EU and also in the US. So that is another big topic that we're looking at. How do we make sure that the energy system is also able to supply the energy and particularly the electricity to all the data centers that are going to provide that AI? And then, of course, last but not least, we're also looking at the international dimension. How can we cooperate internationally on AI? Because this is something where many countries are active, and we think that even though, let's say, an autonomy is also an objective, there is still room for cooperation with other countries across the world. So that's in a nutshell what we are looking at. So today it's really about develop, how do we make use of the opportunities of AI, and what are also the type of foundation models that we need? Because if we look at the energy sector, there is such a big challenge in terms of electrification, and we have a strategy for that planned also early next year. And how do we make sure that the grids are able to accommodate all the renewables and let's say act in an intelligent way? We think that that is one key dimension of digitalization, and also a key role that the network operators have to play in terms of making the whole system smart and allowing everybody else to be smart. So you can see that in particular in the second part of today, we have already slightly focused on that dimension. But this workshop is also for you to basically discuss and to challenge us. Maybe not all of you at the same time, because then it gets a bit difficult. But we will try to, let's say, make this an interesting discussion, and we hope that also afterwards, if you have thoughts or considerations, please don't hesitate to get back to us. And so this is also a discussion that for us, and hopefully for you too, serves as inspiration. Last but not least, we have a public consultation open until the 5th of November. So also there you have an opportunity to express your views. Now, I talked a bit too long, but now I'm going to give the floor to Zoe, who is going to, our colleague from DG Connect, we are closely working with, and who will address a bit the, let's say, the Connect angle of digitalization of energy.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thank you for the efforts to all the participants. We're now reaching, I think, 288 participants, so that's a great turnout for today. And indeed, we work very closely with DG ENER on this important topic. As many of you will know, last week, E.ON, together with the BMW Group, announced Germany's scheme to permit electric cars to participate in the energy market. And it's a small but significant sign of how quickly things are changing. And of course, it's a pleasure to have E.ON with us today, and we look forward to hearing their perspectives later this morning. But energy is no longer just about large centralized plants. It's about millions of connected assets, cars, batteries, heat pumps, solar panels, all interacting with the grid. And the shift makes Europe's energy system more complex, but also more flexible. And this is exactly here that artificial intelligence can make a difference. It can help us manage this complexity, integrate renewables, keep the system reliable and affordable. But to make the transition happen, a supportive environment has to be put in place. And from the side of DG Connect, our focus is on three main areas: infrastructure, data, and the adoption of AI. So first, on the infrastructure, Europe needs sufficient and sustainable computing capacity to remain competitive in AI. So to this end, we have already announced 13 AI factories, and this will upgrade Europe's supercomputers to provide computing capacity for AI, supporting startups and researchers in the training and large-scale development of advanced models. And we're also preparing the first AI gigafactories designed to provide even larger scale compute for mission critical applications built on Europe's model of cooperative and open innovation. In parallel, the Cloud and AI Development Act, which we will present in the first quarter of next year, will create the right conditions for investments in sustainable data centers. And Mark already alluded to this. There's a lot of discussion on the energy consumption of data centers, but also we'll look at sovereign cloud and edge services. So the aim is to ensure that businesses and public administrations in Europe can rely on trusted infrastructure for their most critical applications. The second area, of course, is data. Foundational models also depend on large amounts of high quality data. And today, access to such data is too often fragmented, it's costly, or it's constrained by regulatory complexity. So later next month, the Commission will present the Data Union strategy. The goal is to unlock data sharing for AI and innovation by scaling up access to quality data, to stimulate exchanges between companies, to simplify the regulatory landscape. We've listened carefully to our stakeholders in this respect, and strengthen Europe's global position in international data flows. One of the priorities will be to make the Common European Data Space fully operational. And in energy, the foundations are already well established with the European Energy Data Space, and now we need to move from design to full-scale deployment. The third area, the adoption of AI. Developing AI capacity is only useful if the technology is then applied at scale. So early next month, the Commission will present the Apply AI strategy, and this will be our blueprint for accelerating AI uptake across Europe's strategic sectors, so manufacturing, health, agriculture, and of course, mobility and energy. And here I need to emphasize that it is closely linked to the strategic roadmap for digitalization and AI in the energy sector that Mark referred to earlier, ensuring that the EU's broader vision for AI translates into really concrete applications in the grid and the market. And let me highlight just one immediate example. Tomorrow, the first Horizon Europe call for the GenAI powered digital spine for the energy system will open with a budget of 16 million euros. And the aim is to combine GenAI data spaces, digital twins with decentralized computing to support operators, households, communities in coordinating assets such as renewables, heat pumps, batteries, electric vehicles. So the call aims to improve the reliability, resilience, efficiency of the energy system, and to take steps towards agentic AI. Many people spoke about this in our earlier workshops last year when we were looking at AI. Systems that analyze, support decisions, and act in real time in the energy sector. So to conclude, Europe is putting in place the infrastructure, the data frameworks, the adoption strategies that will allow the energy sector to take advantage of AI. And today's workshop is a chance to explore in detail what this can mean in practice, what benefits foundation models can bring, what data and computing resources are needed, how different actors can work together to make it happen. And from DG Connect, and I'm here with several of my colleagues, we look forward to hearing your insights. They're essential for us to deliver results, and essentially that's a clean, resilient, affordable European energy future. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe, and thank you, Mar, for the enriching introduction. And now that we have the context of why this is very important, let's move on to the discussion itself to get the insights from our great panelists. So then we can move on to the first panel, in which we will discuss about the opportunities of foundation models and AI solutions for energy. I would like to first say and encourage the audience to interact and to send through the Q&A tool different questions, and if time allows, we will pick some of them at the end of the panel for interaction. And with no more ado, I pass to, well, first of all, I introduce myself, or I will be moderating this session. I'm Alejandro López Olmedo, Policy Officer at DG Ener before. And I pass to shortly introduce our panelists that we have the pleasure to have with us today. We have, first of all, Marina Fernández Campamor, She's AI lead in data and AI in energy networks at Aeon Digital Technology. We have also Radet Hatman, which is member of the board of directors of CHEPS. And we have Milos Subasic, which is research team manager for grid management and optimization at Hitachi Energy Research. Thank you, all of you, for your participation here. And I would like to, first of all, give you the floor to briefly introduce yourself and a bit your work in the context of AI for energy. And in the same intervention, I would like to kick off the discussion and ask you already what are the benefits that the integration of advanced foundation models could bring to the European Union energy system, and whether such models are currently already available. So with this, I give you the floor. So I let you choose who go first for a quick introduction and talk about the benefits and the potential of foundation models.
I the first, of course.
Go ahead. Okay, so well, then I will start then maybe giving the floor to Marina, for example, if you want to start.
Sure. I think I heard ladies first, right? I think I overheard. Okay.
I think so.
Thank
yes,
you,
but...
Radek. Lovely. So for the audience, I'm Marina Fernandez. I'm team lead at Data and AI in Aeon Digital Technology. And what we do is bring data and AI projects to our distribution system operators to help them overcome the challenge that bring the energy transition. Before, I had been working at Coreso, the Regional Coordination Center, leading IT projects coming from the regulation directly to the control room to coordinate Europe's electricity. So I'm highly passionate about bringing digitalization to the electricity grids. Now, if you ask me about the benefits of AI and foundational models, I would like to bring the audience to something that is more tangible. Is think about the benefits that you experience when you start in using the first foundational model that probably has been ChatGPT or tools of the like. And what you probably experienced is that you were able to do some tasks that you were able to do before faster, or some other tasks that you were not able to do before better. So dealing with more complexity. Now, is our LLM-based tools, let's say, the key for the energy transition? I would say that there's some potential when it comes to speed up bureaucratic processes. I think we have overall problem of speed in when it comes to permitting and other bureaucratic processes. But our sector is not based on language. It is based on electrons, and therefore we need a different technology for it. And also we need to think on why do we need faster and more accurate models, and it's because we are facing an unprecedented speed of change. So we need to operate our grids in the long and medium and short term. And where we see the classical models hit a sort of a limit is when it comes to optimize the grid, to study the dynamics in the transit, adapt to anomalies, or even handle the amount of variable and unpredictable resources that we see, like electric vehicle charging, heat pumps, batteries, or even data centers. So does these models exist? They do exist. Foundational models for grids have been researched, but I would say at this point they are at that level at research. But that's not a problem because we can reap the benefits and we can still invest on those models. And also I would say that foundational models for grids or for the energy sector are one of the tools that we have in our toolkits, and we have other classical methods that we can also leverage to face the problems and challenges that we face today. So as a summary, I would say that we start to see the benefits that these models can bring, but also I will say that we need to see it as another tool in the toolkit to solve the challenge that we have in front of us.
Thank you, Marina, for this great intervention. So maybe I give the floor to Radek, for instance, to go on with the introduction.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be with you. And I act as the member of the board in ČEPS, which is a company that is transmission system operator. We transmit electricity, and I'm responsible primarily for IT and cybersecurity. And also I've been acting as ICTC chair, which is Information and Communication Technologies Committee in ENTSO-E, which is association of similar companies around Europe as ČEPS. We are approximately 40. I would like to support what my pre-colleague said. It's really about the speed. I'm not sure if everyone is aware what AI is a bit. What we talk now is already outdated, and I feel it was also mentioned a couple of times that we in Europe need to understand that the speed of change is such quick that we really should somehow develop certain different frameworks for our legal setup and our law framework, because it's for us when we try to adopt anything quite difficult to follow up, and you can imagine how difficult it is for smaller companies. So we need some quick framework for our legal adoption. And of course, it applies to the data. What I feel was not mentioned, it's what I used to use the term ecosystem. I feel that we have two challenges in Europe. First, honestly, to overcome, how to say, the reluctance of AI adoption, because people are afraid of AI. Usually they see AI as Gen AI only, and they really don't see it as something like evolvement of things that we done in the past, like expert model machine learning, and people are generally afraid, which turns into our that we really are reluctant to adopt immediately AI models, having in mind reliability, plausibility, maybe explainability of AI models. So that's why we more or less stick to our expert models and are afraid to adopt really those challenges that or opportunities that are ahead of us, which I still think can be done. And I mentioned the ecosystem. Still, we really suffer with having available enough small, especially medium-sized companies, and also knowledge among our employees on the market. Even I say that I'm somehow too old for AI, so I really aim to employ and attract younger people in our industry, in our companies, and that's really quite difficult. So my recommendation is really to maybe define what ecosystem is and to develop it further through Center of Excellence universities, really trying to increase the adoption and understanding of AI among not only professionals, but also, let's say, everyone in European Union.
Thank you, Radek. So then finally, I give the floor to Milos.
Yes, thank you. And I apologize if I drop. I have some audio issues, so I'm bound to reconnect and connect the magic of digitalization. Yeah, today
We
it's not
can
really
hear you.
collaborating.
We can hear you perfectly right now.
Yes.
So
okay. Great.
I hope it stays
So
like
yeah,
this.
first of all, thank you for the invitation to this panel, and it is my pleasure to represent the view of Hitachi Energy today and talk briefly about the small piece of our innovation offering in the area of digitalization. I am leading the German branch of our corporate research organization here, and we are working on digitalization of the power system ecosystem here in my team. While I would mostly cover the area of AI and foundational models in the grid control, I'd like to start by noting that our company is already pushing digital innovation across our product portfolio, from high voltage products to transformers at the grid integration side, from the transformer digitalization ecosystem that embeds sensors, analytics, and remote sensing to grid digital twins for HVDC, for example, and high voltage products, or tools that bring together the advising power electronics control systems and planning to deliver the flexibility and resilience. So what we have right now when it comes to the foundational models and the opportunities, I would just like to build up on what the other two panelists already said. So foundational models can raise grid situational awareness. They can accelerate the analysis and improve forecasting without actually replacing the proven deterministic control. You can think about faster N-1 screening, for example, or better wind, solar, and load forecasts, or earlier anomaly detection from the PMUs, or operations copilot that surfaces the right procedures and evidence all inside the grid management tool. And as Marina already said, I mean, the major FMs already exist for weather and time series. What we are seeing right now is the emergence of the grid-specific foundational models. And Alejandro, we were also last week at this Grid FM workshop, and we saw a lot of interesting research emerging. So what's real today, deployed already to be integrated, are the weather and renewable forecasting foundational models. So you see, forecast systems which are now operational and run alongside based IFS, improving medium range guidance. So for example, Google's DeepMind's GraphCast or NVIDIA's ForecastNet that show 10 to 15 day global forecasting at high skill and speed. We see time series foundational models for load price and DER, like TimeGPT of Nextla, and then Amazon Kronos Bolt that provide this zero few shot forecasting baselines. And we see also grid-specific acceleration. So, for example, research points to grid foundational models like Grid FM using generative neural networks as fast surrogates for state estimation, AC power flow, or contingency ranking. I can note maybe three main directions in which this research is going. So, number one is the foundational models that integrate natural language and time series data. To enhance for example, situational awareness in the grids. The second is to use generative AI such as diffusion models for generating data, which is missing due to privacy reasons. So basically, we talk a lot about data here. Actually, foundational models in grids can bridge, at least in a pre-training, the data which is due to privacy or security reasons not available or not precluded to the people that are doing this analysis. And then finally, we are witnessing large IT providers going in the field of domain foundational models. So the entities like Google or Amazon, which we would not expect to see in this sector, we are seeing in the sector on the grid foundational models. So that's really interesting to see right now.
Thank you very much. So you have done already a really well coverage of topics from legal framework, adoption for smaller companies, skills, and also a bit really great. We could see in the great potential for the different use cases. So as you said, well, depending on the use cases from forecasting grid management, they have different levels of adoptions. But overall, it's true that we are, let's say, at a research phase, getting closer to the application. So in this sense, I would like to move now the discussion to how do we make this happen? What do you think we need to fully realize the potential of these models? You already brought some ideas, but what would be required in terms of data for model training? Also, what is the level of computing capabilities required for the training of models? Are there required some cooperation structures to be established, or overall, what do you think we need for these foundation models to be a reality in the day by day of the grid system? So again, I don't know if giving you the floor myself, or feel free to go ahead and.
I would like to build upon something that Radek said, and it's on, I would call it trust, or in this case, lack of trust. I think something that is preventing the sector to adopt more AI or like more complex models is this lack of trust or lack of understanding. Right now, we would not question a weather model forecast. We rely on it heavily in our sector, and we trust that the results are correct. And for this new, as Milos put it, domain-specific foundational models, well, what we need to build is the trust. For this, we need to extensive validate the models, and to get good results, of course, we need good quality data. We need to move into unified schematics and unified data models so that we can train new models on the same type of format, so the model understand what it is. I'm thinking, for example, for grid networks, moving towards CGMS-based formats. Now, this is not the, then the question is how we're going to share the data. And I know that there's a lot of reluctance on data sharing. At the moment, what we have seen at the cooperation between research and industry, it does that research focuses on training the model on synthetic data that is as realistic as possible. So while the sector might not be ready to directly share the data, I think a big focus needs to be put on creating good synthetic data sets. For example, I'm pretty sure that this week or within this month, ENSUE might share a CGMS-based data set, which is great for the sector to be able to start dating on a unified and simplified data set that is realistic and that has been proven. And on top of this, I would say then, and I will also build upon another point that Radek said, is on talent. Finding good data engineers and data science is not easy. Finding good electrical engineers is also not easy. But while I know that E.ON has the luxury of having a big team at the moment, only for the data and AI team for energy networks is around 50 people. And I'm not counting the data teams at the DSOs. I acknowledge that not every small and medium organization can have this luxury, but still, I think it needs to be invested in to attract these talents. And also, I think the hybrid profiles in which electrical engineers are training data skills and data professionals are trained in the domain-specific knowledge are very valuable, very hard to find, but very valuable. And I think that the sector needs to invest more time and effort into this.
Okay, then I may continue. What came to my mind were actually 3 points. First, maybe it's important to assure participants that we in our sector, we really, in a sense, do AI or expert or machine learning for quite some time. So it's nothing new for us. And we feel that this is our uniqueness in our sector, that we really have available quite reliable simulations and calculation already. So it's nothing about really fundamental change. It's about development. So be aware that we do really quite a lot already. At the same time, I must stress also the cost-benefit analysis. I give you an example. We started our pure AI project 3 years ago, and it took almost 4 years to get it into operation. So just let you know that such time requires a lot of money, and we really have to develop new cost-benefit analysis to convince our regulators, and also to be really sure that we want to spend money for our citizens and not to increase the cost of electricity in an enormous manner, which of course requires in this cost-benefit analysis the risk calculation. And you know that this is somehow and sometimes very sensitive, because different people perceive different aspects of security, reliability, and cost. So this framework is also important to be developed and hopefully be shared with our regulators, and maybe Acer as the agency of regulators next to European Commission should be involved in that. And third one, I might also share with you, we discovered that AI adoption requires a bit different organization and governance than we were used to so far, which of course brings question and challenges whether we are ready, because we really need to change the way how we recruit people, how we educate them, how or what career path we develop to them, and also the way how we manage them within organizations. So this is also a challenge, and let's say we're still at the beginning. We don't know what are the best practices and benchmarks. So we develop, let's say, 3 to 5 operating models, especially for ITs that we test at the moment. So don't forget that the way how we adopt AI is very dependent on the governance we adopt as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Then the floor is yours, Milos.
Yeah, thank you. So I will play a bit of the devil's advocate here, because I'm sitting on let's say the other side of the table from two colleagues in the panel from the operator side, you know, and we do not always have the needed data to develop the nice fancy models that are then to be used in the grid. So, and this is with, of course, the full understanding that the data is critical, that there is operational importance to it. I worked for the system operator. I worked for Terna in past, so I fully understand the issues. So when we speak about what we need to fully realize the potential, yes, number one is data, and here Marina already said we need operational data. We need SCADA, EMS snapshots, PMU, VAMs, streams, outage and switching logs for OMS, for example, incident tickets, network models in CGMS would be great, DER telemetry, then exogenous data like AI weather guidance, market and transparency data from ENTSO-E transparency platform, and finally governance or format like CGMS for models and exchanges across TSO, DSO, RCC workflows. That would be great. When it comes to the computational power or let's say the landscape, that would be great to have. I mean, to train big FMs generally beyond the single utilities on-prem capacity, one should leverage this Euro HPC. I mean, there are several now of them, and for public interest models and evaluations. And then for fine-tuning and inference, that is feasible already on utility or you know, vendor GPU nodes. So we already run Heavy Analytics and can containerize foundational model services in our products, while keeping the real-time control on deterministic SCADA or EMS nodes. And then we didn't talk about this yet. I mean, you mentioned in the intro part the cooperation structures, and this is actually where we can build this trust. And maintain this trust. I think it's a good to have something like the energy data space, like this seeds and data governance act to enable secure sovereign sharing, and data act to unlock device or service data. And then, of course, ENTSO-E or DSO entity plus the regional control centers plus vendors to curate this EU Grid FM reference set. So I think that would be great to have.
I can react if Marina allows. The reason why I focused on the knowledge and really ecosystem was not to undermine anyhow the data and computational power. At the same time, I must say that I see it as more straightforward and clear what should be done in data and computational power than the skills. So to me, it's nothing to undermine, but I feel that it's quite clear what should be done. At the same time, of course, immediately what came to my mind is cybersecurity. And cybersecurity really in a sense of sharing the data for someone who is not really the one we want to share. And in this respect, despite of all the legislation NIS2 and network codes for cybersecurity, we came to the point where you might be aware of the inverters issue, and inverters being operated with firmware from China. And we got to the point when we in Europe, in fact, do not have a solution. So please, with the data, keep in mind also cybersecurity, and be aware that we need not only cybersecurity aligned among our members, which might be also a challenge because not everyone in ENTSO-E is EU member, or not everyone is NATO member. And at the same time, also, we have to be able to really secure the data we share and to be able to really reliably give this data available. Without that, is really risk we increase even.
If I can add to that, I completely agree. Cybersecurity was not a topic that we discussed. I think there's a problem of speed, no? How fast is the sector going? How fast do we need to develop new models? To how fast the requirements are set in place to protect ourselves from what you were saying, for example, the case of inverters. However, I would say that the data sharing is across different entities is not unknown in Europe. I mean, if I think about my work at the Regional Coordination Center, we were pulling the data from the different TSOs for a purpose, for operational purpose. We were creating the common grid model, we were calculating the capacity, we were calculating the coordinated security analysis. So I said that there are frameworks in place in Europe to achieve this. The question is, do we have the frameworks for something else that is not a service provider? No, in the case of an RCC, they are pulling the data and they are providing a service. If we want to develop a foundational model, is this something that needs to be explicitly mentioned in the regulation or not? So that's the point I wanted to make, that actually it's not unknown in Europe to have this. The question is for AI, what is the future? And actually, I truly believe that institutions like an RCC would benefit a lot from having faster and better models to precisely to provide the services.
Absolutely, Marianne. Maybe one small point, I realized that we also need to reflect this in our public procurement process, because without tools how to make sure that we choose vendors that are secure, we can't progress further. So we really maybe need some enhancement of our public procurement rules.
Thank you very much. Really interesting discussion. So, well, a lot of things popped up, but yeah, well, from our side, we already also saw identified the data as a fundamental issue. So I would like to go a bit deeper on it. You mentioned, for example, Marina, that there are already data sharing frameworks in place. I would like to ask you, are these frameworks like ready for the data that is required for AI model development? Because it's also maybe a new reality that the scale of data required for this is different, or maybe, for example, Milos was mentioning different kind of data that are not really available or shared easily. So also, I would like to go deeper on what are, let's say, to the barriers for this data sharing. You already mentioned some issues like cybersecurity. That, of course, it's an issue, but we would like to understand what is the ultimate reason behind hindering this collaboration. If it's let's say from a legal perspective, or its commercial sensitivity of data, its privacy, its regulatory obligations, also bringing the compensation of the data not only from the grid itself, but also from the demand side, smart meter data. And in this sense, also bringing the element that you already mentioned about the in between the different actors, and this would play in different ways. Like I would say, what's the value or the need of sharing between different kind of parts of the energy supply chain. So I'm thinking, for example, between DSOs and TSOs or technology providers, but also what would be the added value, let's say, in putting together data between different companies of the same time. For example, I'm thinking of different DSOs among them. So I would like to maybe move the conversation to that. So again, feel free to step in this way.
I will let my fellow panelists start. I always start.
Yeah, Alejandro, you open big field and
Yes.
big playground. So I try to answer to react step by step. I really would support what Marina said. The data are available. Yeah, we have something to build on. We already do quite a lot through all those quotations that we do and through all the simulation and modeling that we do, and we develop further. Number one. Number two, don't take me wrong. I am really a big fan of sharing data and also developing AI. And when I mention cybersecurity, I might mention more resilience. Yeah, I don't feel that it's really feasible that we secure everything, because more or less everything is available already to our adversaries. So it's more about our resilience, meaning to be able to act against someone who is doing wrong against us. So that's number two. Number three is it takes really a time. And when I just said step by step, what we did is, for example, those two use cases that we started these 3 years ago were the losses calculation and were the anomaly detection. So just imagine how crucial these process and use cases are for us, and it really requires a lot of time of not only data gathering, also data cleansing, and especially testing. We may stress that AI is really not, we just start something and we'll see what comes, but we really do testing. So consider our task as part of European future in energy. It takes a time, and that's why we also mentioned the speed that would allow us a bit make it quicker than it's so far. So my message is we progress. It takes time because there are no shortcuts, and those things that we mentioned from European Commission would just allow us to be a bit quicker, and maybe quicker by quicker, especially through available skills that we suffer at the moment.
Maybe I can build on top of that, and again, let's say, providing about the speed or the time needed. Just like to bring one success story. So we have worked together with another big European TSO, Elia, on a technology development project concerning alarm data. So in development of intelligent alarm management, you can imagine how sensitive that data is for the operator. And basically Elia is a customer of ours, but again, to obtain this data, we have signed the additional NDA. And where the success came is from really involving the operators of Elia, involving the engineers through the entire technology development process. So really unveiling this black box of the machine learning model that was used to classify the alarm data, to cluster it in different ways, to recognize the alarm floods and the outliers in these floods. So basically, by cooperating, working together, you also ensure the customer, you ensure the operator that basically you can stand by what the model is providing. And this is a very critical, let's say, this was a very critical application to develop. Another couple of ideas, or like, let's say, concrete workable options that I can think of when it comes to enabling sharing safely is exactly through these data spaces. So through this common European energy data space, for example, you would enable the operators, the aggregators, the flexibility providers, regulators, and vendors to share energy system data in a way that respects sovereignty, but also privacy and commercial sensitivity. And how you can do that? I mean, you can use federated learning and trusted execution. So you would keep data in the utility perimeter. You would move models, not data, and basically you would maintain this privacy and security that the operators really need, right? On the other side, you can also use synthesized or obfuscated data set for pre-training of the models. So tiered access to CGMS features, which would be sufficient to train the foundational model, but not security critical topology tools. So for example, to train the AI safely, we do not need to put the real grid on the internet, and that's not expected from anyone. We can start with synthetic and obfuscated data sets for pre-training, and then use a tiered access to a model like CGMS, perhaps over open features for the research, restricted features for the vendors, and then full access between the operators themselves. So that's some of the ways that I can see to move this perhaps in a bit faster direction.
I actually would like to build on the last point that Milos mentioned on pre-training the model, or like, for example, pre-training the model could be also done in the cloud, but doing the inference on-prem is a strategy that we have established and validated at Aon, and it has worked very good, and we are using it for some of our DSOs actually. When it comes to data sharing and cooperation, I said that at Aon, we're in a privileged position. We work with several DSOs as part of a strategy on digitalization, standardization, harmonization of data and processes. So here we are reaping the benefits of having this strategy in mind. However, I would have to agree with Radek that time is a limiting factor. It takes time to build a proper data platform, that allows to stream the data at the right places, in the right frequency, in the right quality, and people always underestimate these factors, especially when we talk about AI. I would say that we can count on 80-20, 80% of the time working on data cleaning and 20 working on the actual model. So overall, I think, and sorry, like a last point that I would like to mention is that cooperating on a small set of organizations is easier. We see it, for example, like at Ensoair, like we see it at Aon as well. But I would say that it's a challenge when we open the framework for more organizations. Rather, you also mentioned that there are small and medium organizations, that it might be hard to bring them or to make them collaborate, for the fact that we have many of them, and to put them all into the same path. I think it's a tricky point, and I think the European Commission needs to find a way of organizing and to bring every perspective into the table. So overall, I would say that technically, having this pre-training and inference on-prem, doing safely, it's possible. I think there's a bigger challenge on the change management and bring every actor to the table.
Thank you very much. I see that we are almost over with time, but let's take maybe one more question. I would just like to go a bit like reacting to your interventions. What about, I wanted to ask also, especially given our role as a public authority, I would like to ask if there are, let's say, limitations that come from let's say from the regulation itself. You have talked about, of course, many different aspects and already even ways to solve them. Are there like limitations, let's say, from the regulatory side that are making this process more complicated than it's already challenging, as you see, as you have said? And also, very briefly, well, yes, picking up on the questions of the chat, both they go in the same direction of the cooperation among different countries, and I would extend it to companies. I would like a brief reaction on whether we are going for a system with models developed for, let's say, each country, or would there be an added value on doing cross-border models or cross-company models as well?
If you allow me, I can start this one with a bit of yes. I mean, you said at the beginning, your colleague said also to challenge European Commission and to see what European Commission can do. I think the big topic is the scope clarity of the AI Act for us as vendors. And today's AI Act definition of AI system is intentionally broad. So we are talking about a machine-based system that is designated to operate with varying levels of autonomy, then infers from inputs to generate outputs, and which is helpful at the horizontal level, but risks arise when you're not pulling the non-novel analytics and deterministic control logic into high-risk compliance burdens. So we asked the DG Energy to coordinate with the AI office to issue sector-specific scoping guidance for our domains like EMS, ADMS, terms, distinguishing decision support from safety critical actuation, and also clarifying when traditional model-based apps are out of scope. And the sooner the energy-specific examples and conformity expectations arrive, so documentation in the form of documentation depth or validation or human-in-the-loop patterns, the smoother compliance will be with the critical grid deployments. That's definitely one thing that I would like to underline. And again, as Radek said, coordination with the cybersecurity law. So this is also critical.
Maybe I try to be simple. Less legislation, better. New legislation, really. Second, single market, including single capital market. This ecosystem must be financed by private investors, not by only subsidy and dotation. It really creates difficulty. And third is education. We must be really aware of the value that we have in Europe in education.
Just to keep in mind of the time, I think we as Europe have a tremendous opportunity on the development of grid-specific or energy-specific models here, but I'm going to emphasize some of the points. One that Milos said on more guidance on the EU AI Act. I think it has had a bit of could have had a bit of a untrust, or like what we were discussing at the beginning, how can we build trust on AI? I think for some organizations it can be a question mark, like should I develop the AI models, like in which cases is it safe, like what do I need to do? I think there has been a bit of some questions that the European Commission could help on shedding light into. And then I really like on the one single market, I think because we are Europe, we can benefit from the talent of all the member states countries, and having the help from different organizations, different startups, different companies. I think we should definitely leverage on that. And then education. I have Radek, I have to admit that I definitely agree with that. We need to foster digital and AI talent in Europe, especially to tackle the energy transition challenge.
Okay, so thank you very much for this last intervention. Very nice wrapping up and very nice messages that we we take for this consultation process we are doing. So this is really extremely useful for us. So thank you very much again for your insights and for your time to use your contribution to this discussion. And I think with this we can close the first panel. And we are only 5 minutes late, so I would say that's already an achievement. So I would suggest we shorten the break and we reconvene still at 10:35. So thank you very much. Have a nice day to the panelists.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye to everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, hello everyone. I propose to reconvene. So thank you for this first presentation by the speakers and with Alejandro as panelist. I'm Adrien Thébault, part of policy officers in Unit B4, and I'll be moderating the second session on finding some solutions for data sharing and model development. We heard a lot of things from the different speakers. Some facts first as well, and some possible ideas of solution. And I think we will explore more of this in more depth in the second session. So we've seen in this previous session that the energy system is getting more complex, and that AI is here to help manage this complexity and provide a reliable system. We've heard about a lot of things from the different panelists. We've heard about data sharing, computing capacity, equally about fragmentation of the different companies, a lot about education as well. Cybersecurity was also a topic. And I feel like this is the different type of ideas that we want to explore here at the European Commission through this new communication to give a bit more guidance and help stakeholders manage all of this towards the full implementation and adoption of AI solutions in the energy sector. So today we have with us a few speakers. Gabriele Stella from Terna, Head of Enterprise Architecture and Tech Adoption. Thank you for being here. We also have Luc Nies from Principal Research Artificial Intelligence at Aliender, as well Matija Naklic, I'm sorry if I pronounce that wrongly, but from Tenet, Business Developer System Operation, and finally Killian O'Donoghue from Eurelectric Policy Director. So welcome everybody. I hope you will give some good insights in this second session. And I want to start maybe with giving a bit of context through the help of Killian. We've heard that Eurelectric presented to the energy ministers in Copenhagen last Friday, I think on the 5th of September, the topic of AI and digitalization. Could you maybe brief us before we start a discussion on the key messages that were transferred to the member states to maybe guide us in this second discussion?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, thanks for a very interesting session so far. I'm Killian, I lead the policy department at Eurelectric. We're the European Electricity Association, so we represent the full value chain. So yes, we presented to energy ministers. They had a special summit focused on AI and digitalization 2 weeks ago now. We came with two key messages. Yes, we can meet the demand. And secondly, the benefits far outweigh the risks. So what we're doing as Eurelectric now is AI is the priority of our latest presidency. So we have presidencies 2-year cycles, and they've asked us to look into it with a big project. And we're looking at both the demand of AI, but also this issue if it's a transformative or incremental technology. That's what we want to look at. What I can say from the meeting is we got quite a lot of questions from ministers, and we kind of grouped them into 5. So the first thing they want to know is the carbon footprint of data centers. Do we need to put efficiency standards on them? What we see in general is that the tech sector is very dedicated to green sourcing, and we see that with Google 24/7, etc. The second is the impact of AI and data centers on the electricity sector. Can we meet the demand? What we see is the demand from data centers being about 150 terawatt hours by 2030. We need to put it in context. So if 2,800 terawatt hours is the annual EU demand, so that's about a 5% increase. It's something, but it's a bit overblown. It's very, very doable if we get the framework right. The third thing was big questions on digital sovereignty. Do we need to promote certain European companies, Mistral, all that? There's a lot of questions on that. Fourth was cyber defense. Is the current regulation sufficient? And the fifth thing, which is a big discussion and we need to be conscious of, is the societal value of AI and digital centers. So a huge amount of energy ministers were saying, I have a huge amount of requests for EVs. I have requests for heat pumps. I have a lot of customers coming to me saying, prioritize me for connection requests. Why should I prioritize AI? Given that data centers don't have too many direct jobs. So that was a bit kind of discussion which we had with ministers. I would say very, very interesting. and the demand for data centers is probably the biggest topic they really wanted to know. So that's a bit the context. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Killian, for setting up this context. We now have a bit more info on this, the policy idea around development of AI, maybe looking at the technical translation into grids and more specifically on foundation models. We heard in the first panel that there was strong potentials with many different challenges and barriers. And my question would be at a maybe more technical level. What can individual companies such as TSO do to develop foundational models for grids, and in what areas collaborative efforts will result in a better outcome? So this idea of collaborating and cooperating at a EU level or maybe at a smaller level, this is for you to maybe delve into, would help us in bringing AI at the forefront of the grid. Maybe Luc, from you can start on your side.
Yeah, so Luc Nies, principal researcher at Alliander. I lead our research program in which we are researching strategic topics on AI. One of those is, of course, foundation models. We're actually already pretty close when talking about developing foundation models. So we have a time series 1 for forecasting, which is really close to development to release. And one of the reasons why I think we're able to do this as a DSO is because we've been working on AI for quite some time, so some internal expertise, but also because we have most of the data. And third, we don't just have the data, we also understand the data, which is really important when talking about model development. So previous panelists have been talking about bringing the models to the data instead of data to the models. But it's really tricky if you are developing a model and you cannot monitor the outcomes. It's really, really hard to develop this. And I think that's a continuous challenge when talking about AI, talking about data, and talking about privacy. And I think that also when we're looking at we're really trying, as Alliander does, to really contribute to this open source, not just being as a single DSO, but also try to contribute to the open source community. So at one end, we're actively contributing to the Linux Energy Foundation. We've open sourced our power grid model, which is good and very fast load flows. We're also open sourcing our forecasting model, contributing in OpenSynth, where we can actually create synthetic data sets and publish those. We're trying to open source a lot of data, but it's a constant question. On one side, we're trying to open source data to help train models, to help with academic research. But on the other hand, we're also getting more and more of a pushback from our cybersecurity office because we are an increased risk. And it's a little bit scary to share much data. What are you sharing? Because if you put it out there, you cannot just take it back. To give one example, we used to share our topological data. So where are our cables located? We've recently redacted it because there was a fear that people could misuse it. I think it's a missed opportunity because you can still get this information. If you really want to, you can still get this information. And we're now just, it's a shame because we're not really stopping the bad actors. We're stopping the good actors. We're trying to do research and study this. And also in this research area, so we're also quite often collaborating with universities in more closed, on more inner source. It makes it sometimes easier because then the data stays within Alliander, and it makes it a bit easier.
Thank you. Maybe Gabriele on this topic of collaborative efforts into developing these foundation models.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Adrian, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Gabriele Stella, and today I have the pleasure to represent Terna, that is the transmission and system operator in Italy. And my role, as you said, is head of enterprise architecture and tech adoption. In short, I lead the adoption of technology to support business needs in a safe, efficient, and sustainable manner. A lot of topics are already been discussed from the panel one this morning. I would like to put on the table two more topics. One is that AI is not really a new technology or topic. Probably AI, is studied a lot before the European Union started. And Gen AI is probably the new topic on the market, no? And the second one is that in Terna, actually, we are asking ourselves to find the right use case before the talk about technology. I read some days ago a research from Gartner that says that over 80% of AI use cases actually developed probably will be dismissed in few months. Also, probably the first question that we have to put on the table is which business needs we want to solve with AI, and also if AI is the right answer to these needs. No. So as I mentioned, in Terna, we started from this question. So the business needs and the value of the solutions are probably a KPI, some KPI, some metric to measure the value of the return of the technology. To reply to your question, from the tech point of view, AI is not really different from all the other applications that we have in our systems. So you need mainly clean and valuable data. You need computer capacity. GPU probably is the new technology that we need in our data center, but you also have a lot of new capabilities like cloud platforms to address these needs. And one really important question that was already mentioned is competency and skills that is really not simple to find in the market. For this in Terna, we invested a lot in the collaboration also with university in Italy. And last of all, the main topic that already have been discussed, the cybersecurity and regulation aspects and the risks of AI. In which area a collaborative effort can bring better outcome? Collaboration is crucial for me and positive in every field, in every project. And the energy transition is a common challenge, a common European challenge. So every collaboration probably that we can arrange in the AI sector will be positive. And also, even if TSO and DSO in Europe have different peculiarity, we probably are facing similar problems like climate change, issue on power lines, and so on. We saw this from the recent blackout event in Spain. And also we have similar goals. This the reliability of our lines, the efficiency. So we are thinking a lot of, as I said, as valuable use case. So from the asset management, predictive maintenance, or automatic failure detection and prevention. Today we spoke about forecasters. So weather forecasting is one for sure a good topic. And also the grid planning. Cillian spoke about data centers and a huge growth on energy requirements from data center, also from AI. And this could be a really good challenge. And last, the exchange, the European exchange in electricity. So the borders, let's say, flow is a good topic.
Great. Thank you very much for these insights. It will give us some more topics of discussion afterwards. Maybe first, Matija from Tenet, maybe if you want to add something on the areas of possible collaboration.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I would like to just build on top of what Gabriel said. I really support that we should start with identification of the use cases, but not really, I believe, advanced use cases, more kind of low-hanging fruits that bring value immediately. And that, I think, will be the door opener. What we also should keep in mind that, sometimes the use cases are very generous in terms of data requirements. So what I always try to communicate is we need to start saving operational data on the long term, meaning 7 years roughly. Why we need that? Because with the use cases we have today might be less demanding than maybe the future use cases. So we need to start saving the data already today, knowing that that data might be crucial, really crucial to unlock future use cases. Of course, validation testing comes really important, right? When we are doing machine learning or AI in general. So I think we should also have kind of facilities in which we can test those models. On the other hand, models are as good as the data, right? So, and in power systems, we tend to operate the power system in a certain, with a certain state, in a certain scenario, so to say. And what those models may not reflect all possible scenarios in which power systems can be. So we think it should be very important to keep in mind that we should be also have the capability to simulate scenarios which are not observed with measurements. So we should have capability to simulate also, I would say, hardly possible scenarios which are fundamental to learn the model to respond properly. And there is still a lot to be researched, I believe. This physics-informed machine learning, this is really fundamental. I find it interesting stuff that can be really explored, pushed further to benefit, especially for dynamic security assessment, for example. That would be for the now. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So
can I react to one of the things Martin just said?
Luke.
So I think it's very important to realize that we should really treat data as an asset, not something we're doing. We're saving it for operational reasons, like 1.5 years, and then it's gone. And that's such, from a point of view, that's such a shame. We've really lost a lot of information there. And also when we're looking at the use case, it's sort of a competition. So yes, we should look at the use cases first. And yes, we have very well established methods right now which can serve those use cases, and they get better. And often what we discovered, so you do your first deep learning pilot, you train to 1 month of data because that's all you could get your hands on, of course, and it won't outperform your existing electrical mechanical methods, which have been almost 100 years of history. Now it won't outperform. It will start outperforming when you put in all the data. So we're trying to see the results now. We've put in 6 years of SCADA data of all our measurements, and we're finally starting to outperform existing methods. And now it's getting exciting. But it really requires to have a lot of data. It only scales with data. And right now we just use our data. Very interesting to see how we'll perform on other data.
Definitely. Thank you, Luke, for precising. Maybe I'll definitely jump on this topic right now, because data sharing is definitely one of the areas where collaboration could bring added value to the European development of these models. In this case, what type of collaborations, maybe technical solutions or framework structures, could facilitate this development of models in the energy sector? Maybe looking specifically at data sharing. Maybe if you can start, Luke. I'm talking about data sharing, but we also mentioned computing resources, cooperative procurement at some point, also development with smaller companies and DSOs. So maybe if you can elaborate on these points.
Yeah, so small scale, of course, we're trying to open source data where it's possible. I think it is interesting because you can also, you don't just put it out there, we can also have some licensing on it. So can you use it for, it's just purely for academic research, or can you also use it for commercial things? So I think that's something we often forget. By actually open sourcing, making data available in your terms, you can also decide on how are other companies allowed to use it. That's definitely one way. What we're usually doing with universities, we often onboard the PGs we're collaborating with as internal Alliander employees, so they can work with the same data as our internal data scientists can, because then they agree to the same topics. But that's really on the more offline machine learning part. I also think that when we're looking at data spaces, it can also play a key role in creating a common framework, in creating ownership of data, and also make it explicit who owns the data. I think it's also, is it the DSO? Is it the end user? Is it the aggregator? I think these are questions which we haven't really tackled yet, and having a proper framework can really help in this.
Great, thank you. Maybe Gabriele, adding and jumping on what Luke just said.
Yeah, everyone is jealous about his own data, even inside the company, no? Also outside for sure. Probably Marina before in the panel one said a good solution for this problem, that is synthetic data, no? Every company has its own data, and it can fine tune or create your own models, but probably a good way to share data without losing the intellectual property or violating some internal policy is with synthetic data that you create from obviously real data, but you can share more easily. From the infrastructure point of view, a good topic to put on the table is the new capability that are opened by cloud platforms, because also to create a common infrastructure from the data centers on-prem sides, it's quite difficult, both practically and technically. Instead, it's quite simple to create a shared infrastructure on a cloud provider, a main European cloud provider in a European region. And in that way, it's probably more easy to create a shared infrastructure that everyone can access, having its property on the tenant that he creates, but share the data in more easily way.
Okay, very good. Yeah, thank you. I'll move maybe down to Killian again. So for Eurelectric, AI is definitely a priority. Do you see a plan, because you incorporate a lot of different companies, do you see a plan or some ideas of really cooperating between larger entities and smaller ones on these different topics to create maybe share models or share data and create a good cooperation between these companies?
Yeah, so I think that there's huge potential there. I think one thing we need to be conscious of, and one thing we kind of push as Eurelectric, is we're discussing mostly DSOs here when I speak of Eurelectric, and there's very big variation in terms of size across Europe. We had a very good expert from E.ON speaking earlier, and E.ON had a big workshop last week. They have the capability to do that. We also have a lot of smaller DSOs, and we also need to be realistic there that some of these things are going to be challenges. So what we would like to see a bit in this kind of the next piece of legislation, which comes out Q1 next year, is pushing digitalization of the sector. And then we're going to have to look at smaller DSOs, what we can do to kind of help them to fully embrace the potential AI. That's something we would definitely ask for.
Definitely, this is the areas that we're looking into. This cooperation between larger actors. I think the Marina from E.ON made a really fair point on this. Maybe Matija, if you have some compliments on this, really looking into the cooperation between TSO and DSOs, and not only maybe on models, but also data sharing, computing infrastructure, and so on.
Maybe my view on the foundational models is that those models become critical asset. Right? They possess really the knowledge on the behavior of power systems, so to say. So openly sharing those models constraints, and also others would say have a lot to say on this. So I think we can share a lot, collaborate a lot on the solutions, because when sharing solutions or algorithms, so to say, you don't need to share the models itself, right? So the models can stay in the companies or in sort of security zones. Of course, sometimes what we miss is applied research. So to facilitate applied research, we should also have ability to share somewhat these models also with some research institutions, maybe in a controlled environment, I'm not sure. But what is happening is that the knowledge is scarce. So we are really competing for resources. So if we can and that's what is also very good. In Europe, all TSOs and also DSOs, of course, we are faced with very similar challenges. So to prevent reinventing of the wheel, I think we should have sort of regulation in place which could facilitate sharing of solutions. At least speaking of Netherlands, we have some laws in place which make this free sharing of solutions quite difficult. So maybe we can look into that, how we can actually speed up through sharing.
Definitely. This is something we definitely want to look at, because the following question would be, looking at sharing these solutions, what are the different types of actors that we need to involve to develop the solutions? What type of data should be required to share? Is there some regulatory challenges or barriers, as you mentioned, maybe in the Netherlands? Who do we call to the table, basically, to start a discussion, and where do we go from there? Maybe Gabriele, if you want to start on this topic.
Yeah, thank you. Data really depends on the use case. No, sorry to repeat this thing, but it's really important because, internal, we have huge amount of data that we use, we create, we use, we manage. Obviously, we need clean, integrated, and value data. That is really important. One good point that was already mentioned is to keep data. This is really important because maybe we have data that today we are not using for any use case, but it is really important also to have historic data for training good models. Is to keep data also if today is not useful. And again, of these, cloud platforms really can help in this way because you can rely on low prices, and really huge scalability. So one good advice that I want to give is to keep data also if you don't need it. For the actors to involve, I think an important starting point is to create a common goal, and a common governance framework, depending obviously on the use case and the needs. And all the stakeholders are important in this topic. So from TSO, DSO, technology vendors, producers, manufacturers, institution for sure. And also, as I said, we are trying to create some contact with university on the research area, because AI is really evolving, changing, and really fast technology. So you need someone that you can study and research and predict the next future wave of AI.
If I can also add to the actors we need, I think also having legal experts with both knowledge on AI and energy and legal is crucial. To give an example, we've discussed EU AI Act already for a little bit. Well, we've translated this to an Alliander-wide AI policy. And there was a very interesting collaboration between the legal experts and the AI experts, because originally the legal experts were, okay, let's be on the safe side. You need human monitoring. Let's say every AI system needs to have a human in the loop. So every action your AI gives has to be controlled before you can actually execute it. Well, initially, Zoe already mentioned, we're moving to a way more flexible energy system with millions of devices constantly connected. So having a system, an AI system, and you have to manually verify each action it will take to control those millions of actions, that's just not possible. That's infeasible. However, to properly understand the impact of legislation of saying, we're going to put a human in the loop just to be safe, and actually translating this to the impact that will have on the operational side, I think this is very important. So then we found midway to find human monitoring. I think there's still a discussion of what exactly human monitoring entails, but at least it's not human in the loop. And the same holds for data. If we're looking at creating new data legislation, we should not be on that. We should give some pushback, or at least make it understandable what the result is of certain legislation. What can we not do given certain legislation? What can we do if we push the boundaries a little bit? And then we can, I think, make a fair trade-off between cost and benefit, or risk and benefit.
Very interesting. Yeah, thank you. Maybe Matija, if you want to compliment, it started from the point you made from the legislation in the Netherlands preventing some form of sharing. Maybe if you can elaborate on this and throw some solutions in there if you have some, that could be interesting as well.
Oh, that's a tricky question for me. I'm not that much involved into this, but if I may add something else, you know, AI solutions need to land in typically very operational environments, sometimes mission critical environments. And those mission critical environments, we typically already have systems there, so-called legacy systems, which need to be. So what I find challenging or very important that we also should have suppliers very much involved in AI development, because those solutions, AI solutions, should heavily integrate with the existing systems we have. So we need to find a common way how we can, you know, leverage innovation, maybe independently of existing suppliers. Sometimes we have to do that, and how those solutions will they work together, integrate together. It's not always that easy.
Yeah, and I think there is also having more of a co-development on these solutions is interesting, because right now we usually operate within tendering for our main IT solutions, and tendering takes mostly over a year, and then you need to phase out your system, you need to buy it, onboard your new people. So when you so recently switched to new SCADA system, I think it took a couple of years. Don't ask me how many years, but it was way too long for an IT system. When we're talking about IT, when we're looking at the industry, we're used to these innovation cycles of roughly 10 years. That's what we're used to as an industry. We buy a new asset, we put a few in the field, we will watch it for 10 years, see how it operates. If it performs well, we do a wide rollout. That's sort of how we're used to operate as a grid operator. But that is not, the model is not feasible when talking about AI or IT technology. By the time you're done with your tendering, it's already old-fashioned technology. So we really need to think, how can we include novel technology in tendering, and how can we co-develop with suppliers without breaking tendering laws to actually come up with new solutions which are state-of-the-art instead of 4 years old.
Definitely, that's a very good point. If maybe Gabriele or Matija, do you have a point to complement this very specific idea of co-development with other actors? Is it something have you seen recently? Is it something you want to go towards, or?
Well, we have in Europe, sort of as part of NCA, we are building so-called vendor agnostic solutions, where the idea is that we collaborate openly with suppliers. The idea there is also to very much define what kind of business capabilities should be developed, what kind of interfaces should be used, what kind of data products should be used, so to standardize as much as possible. We are talking now, of course, about the modular system that we are kind of all want to develop in some way. So there is some movement in that, yet there are also challenges. Of course, every one is somewhat unique. So it's still we still need to take some road to get to the kind of united, common architecture, and of course also interfaces and business capabilities that we would like to develop. So there is still some road to take, but the movement is there, I believe.
Gabriele,
Yeah,
maybe if you want to complement.
Yeah, also for us, you know, we are trying to collaborate as much as possible with every stakeholder, you know, in the pipeline, from DSOs to our regulators, to find the goal probably is to find this common governance framework and also common standards for data sharing and infrastructure and model development, because really the technology is evolving so fast that really we have not the time, to create a document that the months later everything is changed. So probably a common goal and common governance framework is the key to create, an ecosystem that go in the same direction.
Very well, thank you. Maybe then a follow-up question to Killian. How would you assess the current regulatory environment in Europe towards the creation of these kinds of frameworks and governance? Is it something that could be possible in the current system?
Yes, we would say so. And we're kind of looking ahead now to this Digitalization Act. And I think what we'd like to see is obviously a solution on the data access. I think we've covered that a lot. I know it's easy to say that it's about the details, but that's kind of what we would want. The second would also ask is kind of more push for digitalization of DSOs. And then the third thing we kind of say is we'd like to see, DG Connect, DG Energy, DG Grow, these people working together to find solutions for faster connections of data centers. That's a big issue we see. The demand, as I said, 150 terawatt hours from now to 2030. But the application processes are sometimes taking 8 to 10 years. So we need to have faster permitting and faster connections. That's kind of the key things we're asking going forward.
Very well, thank you. I'll have this last question for you. It's a question that was maybe a red line towards in the whole of the discussion, but our aim and our goal would be to make that the benefits of these innovative foundation models, we want them to spread quickly and rapidly and widely to support the energy transition. We know that there's a lot of different types of actors, different sizes. How do we make it? It's a global question, but how do we make these benefits tangible for all actors inside the energy system? Maybe Killian, yes, please.
Yeah, I can go first. I think the first thing that we've just very useful to this more general statement is I think it's important to break down. Are we discussing an incremental technology or a transformative technology? And the two are very, very different. If we look at the generation side, okay, as your electric, it's either better forecasting for renewables, which we discussed earlier, or are we going to fully optimize self-generating plants? Yeah, there's two very different things. I think we need to have that knowledge. Similar on the trading side, even if we speak of the permitting side, huge potential. Is this just a tool for faster permitting, or could we hypothetically put this into model and say, okay, you fit the permitting requirements? I think if we have this kind of broken down, what exactly we're discussing the potential, I think you're going to see a faster uptake. Because for now, when I speak to my members, I get very different feedback.
Thank you. Maybe Luke, if you want to comment on this question.
Yeah, I would all like to be transformative. That's really difficult. But I think getting used to the technology, then iterative really helps. Finding out that first key use case, and pushing that, having people become more familiar with it. I think it's also very important, not just your end user, but also your business owners, your directors, who might be less AI savvy than the builders are. Sometimes tricky to remember. And at the same time, keep your transformational goal in mind. So what's the point on the horizon? Work towards that in an incremental way. That's how I would approach it. And making it, and I really believe in the open source mindset. Just open source your methods, maybe not your models or your weights. That can be a bit scary. Maybe someone trained on synthetic data that might be less riskful, but also open sourcing benchmarks. What are your golden standard? What are your golden standards, and what should it be able to outperform? Because that's also often the question: is okay, it needs to work well. Okay, define well. What's good enough? Do we need to outperform humans? Do we need to outperform existing methods? What's the golden standard? Having proper golden standards to work towards, I think that's also really beneficial.
Thank you. Gabriele?
As with any important change and investment, the first step probably is to find the value, no? return for the investors. And then the technology follows. We started a really important change management program to introduce the AI in the company that starts with a program that we call AI literacy, because is a technology that stay in the market from over 70 years, but it is almost quite new and quite difficult to introduce in a company. And we created an AI manifesto, that describes the main guiding principle that we want to follow to introduce the AI. And in parallel, as Luke said, probably you have to find a quick use case with an important return, and we are trying to investigate a lot of use case from the Copilot for employee productivity, for the AI in enterprise processes, to grid management and the system operator part. So you have to find the first use case, and then everything else probably follows in the company as you see the return.
Great, thank you. Maybe Matija concluding, I mean, as the last intervention, maybe also taking into account the smaller system operators and that may face different challenges. If you can maybe wrap something around this as well.
Well, I believe how we can spread the benefits is through small success, right? We had initiatives on the open source sphere where really they spread across globe, especially with respect to topology optimization. I think the algorithms that were developed as part of sort of competition environments, they really top volume, right? So I think we should go in this direction. Maybe open source, well, I'm really a supporter of open source, but not everyone is so convinced about it. So maybe we need kind of close communities in which the users, so DSOs would share the code in a more kind of controlled manner. Maybe we need something like that. Not sure, but definitely we need support to boost this innovation that everyone is doing among us.
Great, thank you very much. Is there maybe a quick reaction from one of the panelists on this point? In this case, we are right on time, so exceeding 2 minutes. So I will conclude. Thank you very much to all of you for your intervention today. I will pass the floor to Mark van Stiphout again, who will be concluding, and I will see you in the next panel workshop on the 25th. So a bit of publicity here. Mark, over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Adriaan. Thanks also all the panelists today in your session, and Alejandro and the panelists in his session. And also not to forget everybody at ENTEC, and in particular EUREC, in particular Anna, who is helping us who has helped us and who is helping us to organize this webinar and the next one. This was really very, very interesting discussion, very useful, very high turnout. So obviously a big interest in the topic. I'm going to try and see if I can summarize some of the key points that were raised, but please bear with me because this is quite a difficult job considering the depth and breadth of the discussions. I think first of all, it's fair to say that there is among the panelists a good consensus and agreement about the potential of AI. There is a lot of possible. AI is not necessarily a new topic, but what is new is the generative AI that holds a lot of potential. In particular, in the grids, there is a lot of potential, and I think all the parties that we invited are looking at this very, very intensively to see how to make most of it. And in particular, if we talk about the increasing complexity of the electricity system, I think it's felt that AI can definitely contribute. And also it helped to manage the vast amount of data. And this goes from forecasting, grid grid planning management, demand side flexibility. So not just the grids, but also everything connected to it in terms of reducing the cost, supporting decarbonization and increasing the resilience and the reliability of the grid. I think it was very useful also to hear from Kilian how the ministers of the EU perceive the discussion on AI in energy, where of course on the one hand a lot of attention to data centers, can we actually connect them, and where I think also Kilian's realism in terms of the percentage and the fact that this is doable is reassuring, but at the same time the questions from ministers around what is the priority of data centers connect to all the other things that need to be electrified, but at the same time emphasizing the sovereignty of the EU when it comes to developing our own AI models. So this is, I think, a very useful background and context and an insight into what ministers think about these topics across the EU. In terms of the, let's say, the challenges to tackle if you want to make the potential, I think we noted down a few things. The first one thing that all of you mentioned, and particularly in the first panel, is the skills. The skills in education. If we want to develop the models, then let's say a focus and knowledge of AI is fundamental, and but AI, not just, let's say, I think what some of you mentioned is not just the AI, let's say the computing or the understanding of the let's say the IT side of it, but also the operation side and the legal side and the legal implications that are very important. So it's very much also a combination of different types of expertise. Then I think one thing that I also heard a lot being mentioned is it is about the ecosystem. And the first panel, I think Radek mentioned the ecosystem also from a broader perspective in terms of the amount of rules and also the capital available to invest in AI solutions to create an ecosystem with innovators that cannot depend on subsidies, but should also work in the market. I think the dimension of bringing different parties together was mentioned quite a lot. The smaller and the bigger parties. Some good examples from Aon, for example, who have had a lot of experience working with smaller DSOs. That is now helpful when it comes to developing AI, but bringing the innovators, so to say, around the network operators, that I think was mentioned quite a bit as something that is key in order to put together a good ecosystem with, of course, the research institutions and the technology providers there as well. And then I think one thing that came back quite a lot is the importance of data to train the models, to develop the models. There are extensive data sets needed if you want to develop foundation models, and sharing data across the different actors really holds great potential. There are some examples. Martina mentioned this morning the regional cooperation centers of the TSOs and the data sharing models that are there. But she also put a very relevant question that those, let's say, frameworks that are in place are always meant with a particular service in mind. Whereas here, if we're talking about developing new models, then the question is whether those frameworks are actually adequate. So I think this is a good also indication for us for something to look at. And we may want to get back to some of you about it. And then, of course, the sensitivity of the data, the security concerns. I think, Alejandro, you mentioned the fact that you're actually now publishing less information because of security concerns. So that is a restraint. And so we need to find cyber secure ways of sharing data. And we should also explore the pushing faster ways of data sharing by using synthetic data. Quite a few of you mentioned then also the data sharing and the governance frameworks. For example, quoting or referring to the Common European Energy Data Space, which is, of course, something that we are, as part of this digitalization work, looking at very much. We started looking at that from a use case, specific use cases point of view with our Digitalization of Energy Action Plan that the Commission adopted in October 2022, looking in particular at what kind of data do we need to exchange for flexibility, for smart charging, for example. But here we see a new use case, namely data sharing for AI, which is not exactly the same type of data or data sharing. But I think when one of you mentioned that you spend 80% of the time on the data cleaning and then only 20% on the model development. And I think getting models and governance into place to make sure that data exchange easily is key. And I think also Gabriele mentioned this, the developments in AI go so fast. So if all these things need to be set up in a bespoke way each time, then we are not really racing at the high speed that is needed. So I think these were very, very useful and interesting remarks. I think there was also a bit of a discussion about the computing capacity, the fact that these large foundation models need a lot of computing capacity, which is being built up, as Zoe said. But then, of course, it's a question of access, and sometimes individual actors in the energy sector will have a difficulty to access that computing capacity. And we also need that use that infrastructure. We need to have an infrastructure available to test and validate models. And I think one of you also mentioned creating a shared cloud model or cloud infrastructure in order to do these type of things, I think is key. Again, we talk about how to share the data and how to also, I think I didn't mention this enough, how to create trust so that these things can be shared in a good way. And maybe not open source is here always the right way to go, but it could also be setting up in smaller communities with the same goals, like a number of system operators. I think this is what Matja from TenneT mentioned. As a consequence, I think we have, some individual companies, or a number of individual companies that can do these in-house developments. But there, I think you all recognize also the added value for cooperation and collaboration across companies, developing in faster solutions, better models, etc. But of course, it requires some type of sharing, data sharing, or model development sharing infrastructure in place. I think what's also very important to mention that what came back quite a bit is that all the TSOs and DSOs face the same or similar challenges. They have the same goals. We're all in a European way in decarbonizing the electricity and the energy system. So also from that point of view, collaboration is essential. And this is, I think, what we've been saying already a few times also when we are promoting the development of the digital twin of the European electricity grid, namely make sure that we learn from each other and that not every system operator needs to invent the wheel himself. There is a lot of benefit in cross-company cooperation. And of course, we don't think this should stop at system operators. I think this was also mentioned. There are a lot of data elsewhere. The technology providers, Hitachi, the energy companies, the AI developers, of course, that need to be taken into account. Right, and then into the models specifically. So I think I just mentioned this, but we need to develop actions to build trust, to create good quality data sharing framework, cybersecurity and resilience provisions, and physics-informed approaches. We need to work on the cost-benefit analysis and the business dimension of AI. We can start by simple and applicable use cases, but be forward-looking and look at what this can all be built into, and also save the operational data from the past so that we can actually develop this further. Right, I think I'm going to leave it at this. I am sorry because I'm pretty sure that I didn't do full. Oh no, I should mention two other things. The Data Act, I think you all that came back quite a bit. The Data Act and the AI Act as something to create the right framework. Push for the digitalization. I think this is what Kilian said. And of course, coming back to what he started off with in the beginning, namely faster connection of the data centers. That is a separate part of a discussion. We are going to continue this discussion trust about make sure that when we implement or when we develop use cases for the use of AI, we can do this in a trusted way, in a secure way, share about risks, etc., etc. on the 25th of September. So we hope that you will all be with us again then. And so we look very much forward to continuing that discussion. Like we said, we are also open for further discussion, further comments. There was a lot of, or quite some comments in the chat also, for example, referring to the importance or the availability of privacy data and the interaction with the GDPR. So our aim is also to get very much this discussion going. So please reach out if you have further input or comments, for example, via the public consultation, via the another workshop we have on the 25th of September. But also hopefully we have other opportunities to continue this discussion. So don't hesitate to reach out. For now, thanks a lot for your attention. Thanks again to the panelists, my colleagues Alejandro, Adrian, Zoe for the workshop, for moderating. Alejandro and Adrian, you did an excellent job. Thank you very much. And for Anna from EUREC for the whole background hosting, etc. So I wish you a nice rest of the week and hope to see you again on the 25th of September. Thank you.